Ram Spotlight. Now we bring you a discussion on minimum support price hike for Kharif crops, a boost to farmers. The participants are Harveer Singh, agriculture expert, and Sanjeev Mukherjee, journalist.
Yesterday, government raised the MSP of Kharif crops for the season 21-22 with major focus on increasing the MSP of oilseeds and pulses. Mr. Harveer Singh, what according to you is the main point of the MSP announcements made yesterday? What is the key takeaways from that?
Sanjeev, it is very important that this Kharif MSP is announced timely because as per the principle that MSP must be announced before the sowing of the crop. Now Kharif sowing is going to start and government has given a clear signal to the farmer which crop they want to choose, which will be economically more beneficial to them by sowing the crop. So one important hint is there. Another point is that this announcement is more and more focused about the balancing of the crop, or we can say to encourage the diversification. Farmers should not stick just to the food grain. They must opt for other crops also where they can get good remuneration by planting them.
One thing which has come out is that the prices of say tuor or moong that has been increased by over 300 rupees per quintal as compared to paddy which has been increased by just 72 rupees quintal, and even in case of maize which has been increased by just 20 rupees a quintal. So what is the message that you think the government wants to give to the farmers of the country?
The last two monsoons have been very good for the country, very good for the farmers. 1920 and 2021, both the monsoons were really good, and we have seen back-to-back bumper growth in these two seasons. And that's why the procurement of public procurement for food grain record level. Even with this Rabi season, already 418 lakh ton of wheat procured. Like rice is also making a record. So in central, we have plenty of stock. That's why in this pandemic, government has distributed almost 3 million ton or 30 million ton last year for this free food grain to the poor section of the society. And this year also, this confidence comes that we have a huge stock. At the same time, our exports of food grain is also touching new heights. Means we have a lot of stocks of food grain. So what does the message we get through all this? Means we have to focus on other crops. Like on edible oil, we are still importing almost more than 65% of our requirement from abroad. So if we grow more oil seed, we can save 80,000 crore per annum. Not only save, that money will go into the pocket of the Indian farmers. On the one hand, it will basically keep the prices under control. It will ease the inflationary pressure. At the same time, this income will add into the farmers' income, and expenditure being made by common man in the country will be basically a kind of additional income for Indian farmers. So that's why we have grown more crop, particularly oil seeds. On the other hand, we have to go back just 3-4 years back when pulses were at a very high price being sold. But strategy was changed. Under a committee of then Chief Economic Advisor gave recommendation that government should increase MSP for pulses, give bonuses also. So there is a reasonable increase in the last few years in the price of pulses. And our production of pulses reached more than 23 million tons, which is very close to our domestic requirement from 17-18 million tons. So farmers are ready to produce. If we are able to make them assure that this is the good price, at the same time, government will procure your produce at the MSP. So both with the combination of these two initiatives resulted that we are less dependent on pulses import. Now, we can replicate this success story into oilseed also.
The big message that is coming out, as you rightly mentioned, is from the MSPs that was announced yesterday is that the farmer needs to shift from paddy and cereals to more towards oilseeds and pulses, and that is where the remuneration is. And the remuneration, as you rightly said, will come from if the government has an assured procurement system. One thing which many people say is that just MSPs are not sufficient to encourage a farmer to shift from paddy to say oilseeds or pulses, because as somebody was mentioning that there are climatological differences in the areas where they are grown, because paddy is largely grown in area where we have more water, more groundwater, or irrigation facilities are better. But pulses are grown in rain-fed areas where the groundwater is less and the irrigation facilities are also lesser in those areas. Do you think it is still possible to shift or encourage the farmers to leave paddy cultivation and go for say pulses or oilseeds?
We have to come out with a solution, because just MSP increase is not the only solution or a way to encourage the farmers to shift from particular crop to other crop. Paddy is more water consuming crop, so definitely pulses requires less water. But at the same time, we have to look at what is the yield pulses the varieties are giving. So we have to look in overall economic gain or economic turnover from a particular area of 1 acre. So in that case, if productivity will not go up and these pulses varieties are not basically protected from the disease because pest attacks also happen very frequently in pulses. So this is the basically lack of research focus on these varieties of basically pulses. Our agriculture research system should focus more. They must come out with better varieties which have more yield so that economic gain can be much more than paddy. On the other hand, if you see, some state governments have taken some initiative. Like Chhattisgarh government has announced recently that farmer will move from paddy to some other crops. They will get 10,000 rupees per acre input subsidy extra. So Haryana government is also promoting that kind of a scheme. Some other states also can follow this thing. So it is not just that the income from selling that particular produce will translate this diversification, but we need a complete package of solutions. We need high yielding varieties of pulses and oilseeds. We need proper protection to the crop from loss and maybe the insurance coverage in a better manner. And at the same time, some incentives given by the states are direct to the farmers so that this total package makes the farmer or to encourage them to make a decision to diversify from only just from food.
As you rightly said that we need a package of things to encourage farmers, and MSP is just one of the options. Also, I was coming to the point, do we need an assured procurement mechanism just like we have in pulses, in paddy and wheat? Do we also need an assured procurement mechanism to support this system?
No, actually, recent 2-3 years in past, procurement of pulses has gone up. Basically, it is not as per the program by this FCI or some state corporation. But NAFED played very important role because this deficiency payment made by the central government through NAFED, and the government has given states that basically they can borrow up to certain level of the funds to buy pulses and oilseed. And that if they are forced to sell at below MSP, the difference will be paid by the central government to them. They have borrowing limit with them. So it is basically the initiative by the state government. State should come forward. Ultimately, state plays maximum role in the agriculture sector because on the ground it is the state government and state machinery. We have seen in this Rabi season that due to some international price increase of edible oil, prices of edible oil actually increased in a big way. Then mustard farmers started getting over and above MSP prices even from the beginning, from March itself, and prices are very high compared to MSP. So in that case, sometimes market also plays very important role. In this scenario, there is no need to buy by the state government or state agency because market itself is paying better price to the farmer. But at the same time, it is the role of the state government machinery to assure the farmer that your produce will be procured at MSP. In any case, they must have a system to do that. Only then this assurance, I think, will encourage the farmer to diversify for this.
If you have an assured procurement mechanism, you also need to use that procurement somewhere. Just like in case of cereals and pulses, if you have an assured procurement mechanism for pulses and oilseeds, you also need to use that commodity. So does this also call for distributing pulses, maybe oilseeds at some point of time through the PDS system?
No, actually, pulses, yes, because from the poor section of the society, it is not just a food grain. It is basically nutritional security also. And pulses are very important source of protein. In that sense, we have basically increased the coverage of pulses under public distribution system. Government last year announced and gave gram chana under Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana, 1 kg chana to poor sector of society. I think we should have a proper system because under National Food Security Act, it is not just you have to provide food grain to the poor sector of the society. At the same time, it also says that you have to ensure the nutritional security because nutritional security plays very important role because if there is no malnutrition among the pregnant women and the children, it will also save the cost of health also for the country. And our next generation basically grow in a healthy environment with a healthy body. Pulses is a very important commodity which can be enhanced and we have to use that too. Because in the last few decades, production has not gone up in proportion. Per capita pulses availability has gone down. That is not a healthy sign for a society which aspires for a good future. Sanjeev, another point you just asked about the oilseed, because oilseed is a different commodity. Oilseed needs more processing. In that case, some state agencies do the processing, like Agriculture Marketing Federation in some states do. and some state governments also distribute edible oil to the poor section of the society. If we can encourage that, that will also be good because the ready market will be available for these oil seeds through the cooperative federation or some government agencies, and they can do the processing also. And it will also play a very important role to control the inflationary pressure also, because if state agencies are there to process oilseed into oil, definitely that unreasonable profit margin will be controlled.
Obviously, it will give a very assured return to the farmer because he will be assured that some people, even if there is a price fall in the market, there will be a regular buying done by some agencies so that he can become risk-free in that sense. One thing which always comes into this picture is the role of imports in case of pulses and oilseeds. As you said in the beginning that we are importing almost a very significant requesting more than 60% of our edible oil requirement and also a substantial portion of our pulses requirement annually. Though in case of pulses, the imports have gone down in the last 5-6 years because our domestic production has risen sharply. One thing I also wanted to know is that what should be the strategy to cut down on these imports? Because raising domestic production is obviously one solution. What should also be done to cut down on the imports?
We have to have an exempt policy for agricultural produce. Under our bound rates and all, we can increase import duty at a very higher level on pulses as well as on edible oil. So we should protect Indian farmers, and we have to have a higher level of import duty on edible oil. This year there is a shortage of edible oil in the global market due to this low production in Indonesia and Malaysia. But when there is a plenty of oil is available in the international market, low cost import also arise in Indian market. In that case, it hurts the farmers' interest. We have to give some protection to the domestic farmers. We are giving protection to the steel manufacturers or some other sector also. We have a flagship program of Atmanirbhar. So in that case, I think we should have a very long-term policy in agricultural imports also. Whenever it hurts Indian producer, means Indian farmer, we have to protect Indian farmers' interest. And through tariff, we are free to do that. We can do legally without breaking any rule of WTO or international treaty. We can do that.
One thing which always comes into focus is that many times farmer groups and farmers have also demanded that why don't you have a benchmark minimum price or a MSP for commodities like onion, potatoes, when you are announcing MSP for 23 crops, why don't we include other crops also? Do you think it's a feasible idea to explore in the current context?
Yes, there is always a demand about when there is a price crash, potato and onion. Onion always is a very sensitive commodity, and we are a very big producer of both these commodities. I think if we cannot do this, we cannot go for MSP mechanism for vegetables, at least these two basic or primary vegetable produce, potato and onion, we should go. We have to cover the cost of production for the farmers and to assure them. And both these commodities can be stored like other commodities, food grain or pulses and all. Other perishable vegetables we cannot store for long time. These produce supposed to be sold fresh and within a time, very short time frame. But in case of these commodities, we can store. We have huge capacity of storage all over the country for potato and cold storages. And for onion also, a lot of storage are there in producing areas like Maharashtra, Nasik area. So definitely we should think, because both these vegetables are basic and primary vegetables, and it is feasible to come out with a MSP kind of mechanism. There is a scheme, market intervention scheme, when price crash for agricultural commodities, so government can enter and can protect the farmers' interest. But in the last few years, we have seen that this scheme is not being used very frequently. So it is better to have mechanism at least for farmers who produce onion and potato.
Thank you, Arvind sir. Thank you for sharing your views.
Thank you.
You were listening to a discussion on minimum support price hike for Kharif, a crops boost to farmers. The participants were Harveer Singh, agriculture expert, and Sanjeev Mukherjee, journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. You can listen to it on our mobile app News on AIR. This program is also available on our website newsonair.nic.in. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsttalks@gmail.com.